This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. On this series, I'll turn lessons from my MBA course, Professional Communication, into practical insights you can use every day. On this episode, I'm talking about one of the simplest but most transformative principles in slide design. One idea per slide. If you've ever watched a presentation and found yourself scanning a slide trying to decode 5 different messages at once, you know why this matters. And if you've ever built a deck that tried to do too much on a single slide, you also know the uncomfortable feeling of watching your audience tune out. And if you've ever built a deck that tried to do too much on a single slide, you know the uncomfortable feeling of watching your audience tune out. One idea per slide is a deceptively powerful rule. It forces clarity, it strengthens your narrative, and it dramatically increases the chance that your audience hears and remembers what you came to say. Let's break down why it works, how to apply it, and what it looks like in practice. Here's the thing. People can read about 3 times as fast as you can read to them. Your audience can both read. Your audience can't both read and listen at the same time. Their cognitive load is already high. They're tracking your voice, your pace, your movement, and the meaning of your message. When a slide contains multiple ideas, for example, 3 charts, 2 big blocks of text, a paragraph or an explanation, they're stuck trying to decode the slide instead of listening to you. When what you're saying and what is on your slide are not in alignment, you've lost them. One idea per slide eliminates this split attention problem. It tells your audience exactly where to look and what to absorb. It also strengthens your authority. A slide with one clear point says, I know exactly what matters here, and I'm guiding you toward it. Let's talk about what one idea really means. There may be a misconception that one idea per slide means 1 chart per slide, or only 6 words. That's not quite it. This principle is about conceptual focus, not just minimalism. A slide can contain a single chart, a single insight drawn from that chart, a supporting sentence, maybe a call out or annotation. But all of it must reinforce one message. If the title, the chart, and the takeaway aren't aligned, you don't have one idea. You have clutter. A helpful test is, if someone had to summarize this slide in a single sentence, would everyone say the same thing? If not, refine it. If you're using titles on your slide, your title should state that idea, not just label the slide. Instead of survey results, or sales by quarter, or customer feedback, use titles that communicate the point. Customers are willing to pay 20% premium for faster delivery, or Q3 sales growth outpaced competitors by 12 points, or retention improves dramatically after week 4. A strong title anchors the entire slide and forces you to keep the content disciplined. If you can't write a clear sentence title, that's a signal that the slide contains too many ideas. Support your idea with the right visuals. Once the headline is clear, choose a visual that directly supports the idea, not just shows data. A chart should answer a question your slide title raises. If your title says customers prefer faster delivery, your chart should show that preference in the simplest, clearest form. Avoid visuals that require mental gymnastics, complex matrices, multi-line spaghetti charts, or dense tables. And we'll talk more about data visualization in an upcoming episode. If it takes more than a couple of seconds to interpret, it's probably the wrong visual for a spoken presentation. And remember, If you need to explain the chart for 45 seconds or more before the audience understands it, the issue is the chart, not your audience. Presenters often overload slides because they feel the pressure to show their work. This is especially true of student presentations. But live presentations are not written reports. You don't need to walk through every number, calculation, or caveat. Your main deck is the story. Your appendix is that supporting information. Put every secondary chart, every deep dive data cut, and every methodological detail in the appendix, and be ready to navigate there confidently during Q&A. When you try to cram everything into the core deck, you really just dilute the story signal. When you move non-essential details into the appendix, you strengthen it. In an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about the difference between a slide deck and a slide doc. Now let's talk about the 3-second glance test. A reliable guideline is that if the audience can't grasp the point of the slide in 3 seconds, the slide isn't done. This doesn't mean that they need to fully understand all the data in just 3 seconds. It just means that the core idea is instantly recognizable. Your slide should support your voice, not compete with it. If your audience can get the point quickly, they can devote mental energy to listening to your narrative, and that's where the persuasion usually happens. Let's put it all together. When you commit to one idea per slide, your story becomes tighter, your pacing becomes smoother, your audience stays aligned with you, your message becomes more memorable. The principle is simple. The discipline is the hard part, but once you internalize it, you'll never go back to cluttered slides again. One idea per slide isn't a design preference. It's a communication strategy. It guides attention. It reduces cognitive overload, and it makes your story easier to follow at every step. So the next time you open PowerPoint or Google Slides, ask yourself one question. What's the single idea this slide needs to communicate? Everything else is noise. Thank you for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or classmate. Help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Did you know you can find the podcast on Spotify and YouTube? One of the easiest ways to help the show is by hitting subscribe on these platforms. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business, Office of MBA Career Management. Learn more about the show, find show notes and past episodes, and get in touch with me at conversationsoncareers.com.